I am Captain Spawn, and this is day 342 of Spawn Year. After reading Spawn number 200 and seriously hoping I could tell the difference between a spatula and a Rolls Royce by the end, I breathed a long sigh of relief when the garbage can produced the first issue of a Sam and Twitch miniseries called The Writer. Since I can follow events from page to page, characters have personalities, and I'm actually intrigued to find out what's happening instead of wondering if the writer will change his mind and pretend I read something totally different next issue. I call this a treat. Like somebody baked me a pie. Certainly the similarities to what happened yesterday aren't lost on me. I too am a writer whose scrawlings led to the death of an innocent bystander. Maybe innocent, he mutilated a teddy bear, but that doesn't mean he deserved to die. He also wasn't real, I'm sure, but never mind. Like I said, I'm not doing this anymore. No more analyzing what's happening around me, only analyzing these comics. I was a little surprised to see the world of Sam and Twitch return. And yes, I say the world because everything Sam and Twitch I've read is nearly entirely removed from Spawn lore, makes far more sense, and possesses its own unique tone. I haven't read Case Files, but I suspect the same is true of that. This 4-issue miniseries reads like a lost art from Bendis' run, and that's high praise. It retains the same aesthetic and mood of Bendis' work, but the plotting, characterization, and dialogue, at least so far, is up to his standards, and it doesn't read like a cheap imitation. It's written by a couple of Italian friends, Luca Blengio and Luca Erbetta. Wow, I didn't realize how common a name Luca was. If they weren't comic creators together, they could start a band called They Might Be Italian. It's driven mostly by dry-witted, quippy dialogue exchanges, and that offsets the unnerving ambiance, or sometimes it even adds to it. Sam and Twitch are back to their old selves again. So far, no emotional baggage like Twitch's divorce or Casey's death, and while some references to the past might provide a sense of continuity and contextualize the story in the history of these characters, I'm frankly sick to death of even being asked to pretend like this exists in a working, breathing reality and really appreciate a standalone story where I can pretend like nearly a year of Spawn hasn't melted my brain. I like the moments of deadpan levity, like when Sam says, "I adore you, Twitch. You're the reason I don't need a dog." So far, Twitch is primarily here to try to work out the mysteries with Sam and occasionally makes dry quips. This story appears to be Sam's, although it may focus on the both of them as it progresses. Sam's the one who has huge issues with being forced to add a third wheel to the investigation. Dr. Garland, a female psychiatrist who specializes in interpreting personality and emotion through handwriting. I like the mystery so far, but this is the one element that strikes me immediately as tedious and typical. Sam is always weird around women, and he always struck me as maybe old-fashioned in his views on female professionals, either bordering on sexism or it's a reflection of his personal insecurities. It's not exactly out of character, but it is pretty extreme. Why is Sam so vicious toward her? I'm hoping the motive behind his practically juvenile behavior is explored later. Right now, he's like a big dog barking at her for encroaching on his territory. Maybe Sam is the reason Twitch doesn't have a dog, or at least a Rottweiler. He's especially angry that Garland gives the killer a nickname, The Writer, and I can see several reasons that might bother him. An ominous nickname might give the killer instant fame and make a public spectacle of the case, or create a larger-than-life persona for the killer that affects the investigators' perceptions and makes it harder to do their jobs. But Sam provides no explanation for his outbursts about it, and it makes him seem petty, like he just doesn't like this woman raining on his parade, so he's grasping at things to be angry about. The issue is structured in that non-linear approach I often resist, where I'm teased by an exciting, surprising scenario and then forced to wade through pages and pages of setup that takes place a lot earlier, as if the only way the author could think to hook me was jumping ahead rather than devising a story that's gripping from the outset. Sam is investigating a meat locker, then gets locked in a cold room, presumably by the killer, and then the rest of the issue chronicles the genesis of the investigation, not even getting to that 60s Batman death trap predicament by the end. But the brief stuff we get with the killer, receiving creepy commands through a narrative made up of notes all over his apartment, is instantly compelling and intriguing, as is the way the victim's body was found and how little Sam and Twitch have to go on. So I don't see why baiting me into reading on with a scene from the future is necessary. That undercuts everything else because I feel like I'm backtracking and you run the risk of losing my interest with material that's perfectly interesting otherwise. However, there is a right time for non-linear, and that's when a story is more effective if the reader is given particular details in an order other than the one in which the events occurred. Pulp Fiction is a successful example. And I may change my mind on this choice as it unfolds because it may have some good reason for it. For one thing, In Medias Res is in the issue's title, so it either feels that choice was necessary for the story, or else Bellagio is just feeling really smart for knowing what that is, and he felt the need to use it in the title. I suspect literary devices will factor greatly into the writer's MO, and the devices in the narrative itself may ultimately provide insight into his behavior and psychology. If so, gimmicky introduction forgiven, because that's awesome! Both the flash forward and present day introduce a cold motif, specifically the notion that cold shuts things down. New York is in blizzard conditions and blacked out, while Sam is in a cold meat locker at the beginning. And in the present, that severe weather is on its way. Sam has a thought-provoking line at the end when he quotes an old teacher who said you should never shovel snow or kill people because all you have to do is wait. I am fascinated to read on and see how that idea plays throughout the story and how that urgent need to kill fits in with the writer motif. After all, the reason not to wait with both of those things is the fear of immediate consequences. So far, good, chilling stuff. Signed, Captain Spawn.